use this notion of demand creation and demand capture. And sometimes we use some tactics that are should be more on the capture side. And we're wondering why are things not like why are we not scaling leads appropriately? Can you talk maybe just about how you see those two separate worlds and kind of why it's important maybe to separate them from a tactics perspective?
The way that the technology has evolved has been heavily weighted to measuring capture demand because it creates a very easy ROI story for B2B companies, right? If you're trying to get the success of a podcast and you're trying to use HubSpot to measure it, or doesn't no knock on HubSpot, anyone, Visible, Dream Data, any of them, if you're trying to measure the success of a podcast that way, it's going to show you that the podcast doesn't work because it was built to measure SEO and email and other easily trackable digital activities. And so for us, for instance, like when we ask customers, we find that our podcasting community and social drives 97% of our net new revenue.
My
But
gosh.
when we measure it by attribution software, it shows 0%. And so there's just a huge gap between how companies standardize their measurement, which, by the way, was just made up in the early 2000s, late 2000s, early 2010s, was just made up by vendors. But this is how we measure marketing. But if we rewind back, like marketers get the best information from focus groups, customer research, primary like market research surveys and other things like that, where you go out and you engage with your customer directly and you source those insights qualitatively.
Well,
And so
that's what I was going to ask. To get to that 97% number, are you just asking them? Like, I know it's a crazy concept for us to just ask the
crazy
customer, how do you hear
concept.
about us?
Even for me, I've been seeing this effect in the real world since 2017. People would convert. I'd look at attribution software, and then I would ask them, and they would tell me something different.
Huh.
And it still took me a long time to connect the dots. So we actually didn't implement this until last summer in 2021. And to our knowledge, like the main use case in B2B, or the first main use case in B2B, which is that on our main conversion form, where all of our revenue passes through, greater than 90% of the revenue passes through our main conversion form, our website, where you book a consultation call with our team.
Yep.
We had a field that said, like, do you have any notes or things that you want to share? And we removed that and we put a new one in that said, how did you hear about us? And then the customer, basically, like the things that we get, I saw your CEO speak at this conference and then started following you on LinkedIn, and now I'm on your website. Yep. I got referred to you by someone in Dave Gerhardt's community. We get LinkedIn a ton, right? So you get it's a free text box required, right? So there's no drop down menu, and some customers will write a paragraph of data, and our sales team uses that as a way to qualify the customer. So if people come in and they say that they are short with it, or they say, I heard about you on a blog, that typically means that they're not going to close. And when a customer comes in and says, I've been listening to your podcast all the time, or puts a like wink emoji or something like that when they describe how they convert, that's a really good signal for our sales team that they use to then prioritize how am I going to route this lead, who are we going to route it to, and how are we going to handle it.
Super interesting.
The idea is that businesses, because of how they've measured marketing, everything they've tried to do to create demand for the past 10 years looks like it doesn't work, so they don't do any of it, right?
Yeah.
Which is why the media entity doesn't take off with many companies, because the standardized way to measure B2B marketing will deem that a failing program, not because the program is failing, because the metrics are flawed. Yeah. So we need to come up with a different way to measure what is actually creating the demand. I've provided a really simple, effective framework that we use and more than 30 of our customers use. And I hear stories of tons of companies. I get in the DM every day. I heard about this thing called self-reported attribution from your podcast. We installed it. Game-changing insights is the key thing that I hear. I quote from people, game-changing insights, and it's helped us change our marketing strategy, lower our customer acquisition costs, keep doing programs that we knew worked but couldn't prove. This is what my business is focused on, right? There's a core problem. Attribution is broken. It's causing us to not be able to do these things. And we're able to come up with an effective, so what, source the insight. But the key thing is, so what do I do about it? And so we've had multiple innovations on this front and ended up here, and interested to continue, as you mentioned, in the science, just like getting this down to a science.